The Zookeepers animal pack is here and I've been lucky enough to play around with it for almost a week already. And since this is the Zookeepers animal pack, I want to focus on some of the species I have real life experience with as a zookeeper. The African Spurred Tortoise, the Kirk Dik-Dik and the Hamadryas Baboon are all animals I've worked with at some point in my life. These three also happen to be fitting for my sandbox zoo, the Drylands. In this first video I'll be building two different habitats, one for the tortoise and one for the Dik-Dik. Then in another video I hope to have ready later tonight I'll be building a classic baboon cliff with a twist. Subscribe to the channel to not miss out on that. These new additions to the Drylands means we are taking a break from the African night house for now, but we won't be moving far away from it. We'll start with the tortoise, and to make room for it I decided to move this old habitat for the Nile monitor located in the Sahara Desert area. What will happen to the monitor has not been decided yet. I'll clean up the space here and then adjust the rocks a bit. Then we can build a moat-like enclosure for the tortoise, in a similar style to the warthogs which you will find nearby. In real life I have over time worked with quite a lot of different turtles and tortoise species, and I do also have some experience with the Spurred Tortoise. Something you should never underestimate with tortoises are their ability to climb. They can't get over very steep obstacles, but you should be careful with rocks and logs in front of a barrier. You might not expect it, but if they first get their front legs up on something, they can often pull themselves over. They are in fact quite strong. Therefore I tried to keep this mode as low as possible while it would still feel like something they wouldn't be able to escape from. I've seen a lot of complaints about the inclusion of this tortoise, but it truly is one of my favorite additions in this pack. It's an animal I don't tend to pay much attention to myself when I visit zoos in real life, and that is exactly among the reasons why I think they're a great addition to Planet Zoo. We need small common animals that are easy to find use of in all kinds of zoos again and again. And I think that is very much the case with this tortoise. The African Spurred Tortoise is kind of the discount version of the giant tortoises in some ways, while they're still very different from them in many other ways. It has been high on the list of animals I want to add to the Drylands, so it's nice to finally see them here. As you can see, I'm placing all the plants on the edge of the enclosure here. This is because these tortoises will either eat or destroy a lot of plants, especially when you house them in sand like this where it will be easy to dig around. So I find it more realistic to not put plants where the tortoises can reach them. With this new tortoise model, it's also easy to see how the reptiles models have improved over time. It is a huge improvement from the base game animals, and this tortoise is for sure among the best looking reptiles we got. In the beginning of the year I made a video talking a bit about how the giant tortoises does not really appear giant in Planet Zoo. With the inclusion of this new species I was hoping they might finally do something about this. Sadly it does not seem to be the case, which is really a shame when some people already think all tortoises look the same. At least being able to tell them apart by size would help a lot on that. The headboxes for these new tortoises seems to be pretty good, so with a few adjustments I could make this shelter area work without having to raise the top part of it too high. After I finished this habitat I realized I should check if the tortoises could use a burrow, since this species of tortoise makes burrows in real life. It turned out they can, so that is a nice detail which also helps it stand out more from the two species of giant tortoises. So I ended up including a few of these burrows in the habitat now, though I'm a bit unsure if I think it adds anything good to this habitat. So maybe I'll change this again later. Now let us take a quick look at the completed African tortoise enclosure before we move on to the Dik-Dik. We'll now jump to the other side of this hill, where we find the African savanna area. These buildings hide away part of the African night house, and the area in front seemed like a fitting spot for the Dik-Diks. This area of the zoo has been left unfinished for a while, and I even got some stuff around here I have never gotten around to show you. But I feel like this habitat helps it all a bit in the right direction, so we hopefully can complete this part of the zoo soon. The Dik-Dik habitat I decided to build like an aviary, even though you might find that odd for an animal like this. I currently work with Dik-Dik in real life, and these are in fact housed in an aviary with some African birds. I also know Dik-Diks in aviaries from other zoos. In some cases they are housed with birds and in others with monkeys. So I very much associate this animal with this type of exhibit, even though you of course also can find them in more typical open hoofstock enclosures. Sadly, we don't have any birds or monkeys in the game that would be fitting for a small African aviary like this. So I guess the story here could be that this enclosure used to be for birds and have now been redesigned for these small antelopes instead. Although it can be beneficial to keep Dik-Diks in aviaries for other reasons, in Europe you must make sure animals like foxes don't break into your Dik-Dik enclosures and kill them. So that would also be an issue here in North America. In this desert location there would probably also be a chance of bobcats or coyotes and other predators, therefore keeping your Dik-Diks in a secure space like this is not a bad idea. No matter what, I just like to build aviaries from time to time since I think it helps with a realistic zoo feeling, even though it would of course be more fun to have some birds to add to these structures. While I must admit African antelopes was not something I felt like we needed more of in Planet Zoo at this point, the Dik-Dik was for sure among the most interesting options we had left in this category. As you see here, you can build in completely different ways for it than the other species. And small animals for African areas are not something we have a lot of. So both the Dik-Dik and the tortoise help to make our African areas a bit more complete and diverse. It comes as no surprise, but the model of this animal also looks great. It would be weird otherwise with the amount of practice Frontier got with antelopes and similar at this point. To break up all the mess a bit and just give some more interesting viewpoints, I decided to use some glass pieces here on the sides with a bit of a cover up to not stress the animals too much. With the Zookeepers animal pack we also got some new scenery pieces, most of which seems to be designed with the new scenario map in mind, speaks into this whole theme of celebrating Planet Zoo's 5th anniversary. Among these pieces are a lot of new stuff to build party tent like structures of, and I ended up finding a bit of use for them here to make an area with shelter for the animals. I'll probably never build a tent out of them, but for stuff like this they seem quite useful. I also used these to make a small shelter area for the guests. And here I also tried out some of the new pole pieces for these tents, but I don't really think they're that much better than anything we already got. They remind me a bit of those poles we also saw with the tropical pack, and I probably like those better. To break up the ground a bit I used an old trick you might have seen other people use before, where you turn these flower beds or whatever they're called upside down, so you only got the substrate texture visible. I like the look of this. It is nice to break up the terrain textures. Sometimes it can also be good for the animals to move around on some different type of soil. It can often be tricky with herbivores and plants, but given the Dik-Dik's small size, it is far from everything they will be able to destroy. And it's not every plant they will be interested in eating. So thick grasses and higher or larger plants tend to be doable with this animal. Though if everything I put in here is completely safe, I'm not too sure about. Since we are in a climate suitable for these animals, I suppose we can keep the shelter here quite open, as long as they are just able to hide from the worst weather and can find shadow from the sun. Again, this is quite different than how you would do it in the temperate parts of Europe where I'm from, so maybe there is something I forgot to consider here. We're almost done with this enclosure now, so there'll be some cinematic shots in a moment. Keep an eye out for my baboon habitat as well. I hopefully managed to complete the video for it in time. Thank you for stopping by today, and don't forget to leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. And have a good time with the Zookeepers animal pack. See you soon. Well, hello again, I'm just jumping back in to say whenever the baboon video is ready it will be up here. The plan is to release it a few hours after this one, but should I not manage to make it in time, then it might be delayed to the day after. And if you're watching this and it's not here, then make sure to keep an eye out for it later. Bye bye.